Hi. I wanted to do another video, and I wanted it to I wanted to discuss the low income, the poor people, the poorest of the poor people in the United States. The reason I wanted to do this video was because I came across an article. It was from 2016, but it's still kind of relevant today. And it says to cut down poverty, you must also cut down the cost of living, which that's a no-brainer because the more expensive things cost, the more poverty you're going to have because there's going to be people that make this much money that can't afford to spend as much as the people that are making um, that much money. So if you bring down the cost of living, more people can afford to enjoy your city. Now, if you want your city to only be a city for rich folks, if you only want it to be for the posh, like the Beverly Hills of Los Angeles, if you only want you want your city to be like Beverly Hills, then you can charge whatever you want. And you can say, we don't want poor people in our city. You can just get the hell out. We don't want you. You're not desirable. Well, I think money is money. And if it's green and it spends, it's welcome in my store. I don't care if you're poor or if you're rich. It says here, a basic principle of finance could yield big wins for U.S. cities, according to a new policy agenda. A basic principle of finance could yield big wins for U.S. cities. It depends what you mean by a big win for U.S. cities. Are you talking about the big corporates? Like in Seattle, you got Amazon, you got Microsoft, which Microsoft gets a pass. I give Microsoft a really hard pass. I mean, they get a really, really big pass because they've done an awful lot to give back to the city of Seattle. When libraries needed to be overhauled and they needed new computers and they needed internet service, Bill Gates and company stepped in. Yeah, they put some strings on it. I give them that. They didn't want you looking at porn on the internet, surfing porn all day. They wanted you to be able to use it to learn. And if you had email, they wanted you to be able to email your family or email your friends or look for a job. Or if you had a job, they wanted you to be able to take care of your job through the internet. They didn't want you just sitting there all day gawking at porn. I personally, it's a give and a take with me because the library is supposed to be a place where everybody is open-minded, and the library, if it's a resource, it's supposed to be constitutionally protected. That's me personal, but I don't want a bunch of kids being subjected to a bunch of crap either, or a bunch of old, lonely Chester the molesters floating around. I hate to use that term. A lot of people get angry at me. When I say that, I mean a lot of guys that are just porn hounds. That's all they do is look at porn and they, do whatever. But anyway, but other companies like Facebook and Amazon and all them, they don't want the cost of living to go down because they can afford to live in Seattle and other cities that have major corporations where the cost of living is extremely high. They don't want it. They like living in an area, and this is the thing. I think Seattle is like it is now because the ones that can afford to live there, they want to make Seattle in their image. They don't want to share their Seattle with the commoners like me and like you. We don't want to. I'm going to finish up my train of thought here. But yeah, the ones that can afford to live in Seattle the ones that can afford to live there, um, they want to create Seattle in their image, the way they want it to be. And if you don't have money to live there, well, like if you ever been to the grocery store where you are doing groceries and somebody in front of you is paying for something and they've got a bag full of pennies and their item costs $5, but they're counting out $5 worth of pennies. You ever been there? I have. I know what it's like to have to pay for stuff with change. And I also know what it's like to be behind somebody paying with change and you're in a big hurry and you're trying to get out of the grocery store, excuse me. So Seattle, the rich, or the ones that are making over 100 grand a year, are bothered by the ones that are making 80,000, 70,000, 60,000, and 10,000 and under, the handicapped and the disabled, and the veterans and stuff. The ones that are making money, that's got platinum cards, that can just pay for stuff. They are they want a city where they can enjoy it and everybody else doesn't live there anymore. They'll move because Seattle wants to be like the jet city. You know, it's got an airport there, so it's like they want to be the jet setters in the jet city. Well, this article that I started out reading said if you want to cut down the poverty, you also have to cut down the cost of living, which in a lot of cities that are rich now, unless it turns into another Detroit, people that are living in a rich city, the rich don't want it to become average again because they don't want to share their city with other people. Now, I'm going to read you more. I'm going to do a part 2. This is a part 1. I'm going to do a part 2 of that because I do want to finish up that video. But the thing is that I can't make my videos very long anymore. I'm doing it on my Alcatel 7 cell phone with video capability now. I'm going to be using this instead of my Nikon L830 digital camera that I had been using for 2 reasons. One, it's easier to do it on my cell phone. I don't have to set up my other video camera. And 2, the lighting is better on my camera with my cell phone. And I can make the video look better. So, having said that, sorry to cram a whole bunch in at the last second. Having said that, I'm going to let you go with that thought that the city of Seattle and other major cities like New York, they put up with the homeless and they put up with the low income as a necessity because they can't just kick the poor people out of their city. They have to somehow make it so bad in their city that they'll move and the rich can have the city all to themselves. But it's going to get so high, the rent is going to get so high and the cost of living is going to get so high that it's possible that even the upper middle class can't afford to live there either, and they're going to leave. And then after they leave, the rich is just going to be there, and let's face it, the rich is not going to work at the restaurants. The rich is not going to be driving the city buses and the light rails. The rich is not going to do any of that, so who's going to take care of the rich? Who's going to feed the rich? You got to have regular bums like me working those 9 to 5s for minimum wage at the restaurants like the Space Needle and various other fancy places. So, having said that, what the rich want to do is going to eventually backfire on them. Anyway, this has been All Things Considered because I consider all things. Have a good night, Seattle. I will catch you later.